Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into some truly mind-bending territory. We're exploring ideas that really push the boundaries of physics, philosophy, and, well, maybe even our understanding of reality itself.
Absolutely.
So, based on the stack of sources you've shared, and they're pretty varied, right? Philosophical papers, quantum mechanics discussions, cosmology.
Yep. Quite mix.
Our mission today, yours and mine, is to unpack this single fascinating question. Could consciousness be more than just what's happening inside your brain?
Mhm.
Could it actually be, I don't know, a fundamental property of the universe itself?
That's the core question we're digging into. We're going to navigate these pretty complex concepts together, try to understand the main arguments presented in the material, and just see what surprising insights, maybe what new questions they spark.
Okay, sounds like a
So-
plan. So let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe with what's often called the biggest mystery, the hard problem of consciousness.
Yeah, that's the perfect starting point. The term itself comes from philosopher David Chalmers back in '95. And think of it like this. Neuroscience is getting really, really good at identifying the neural correlates of consciousness,
Hmm.
NCCs.
Right, so like which bits of the brain light up when you see red or feel pain, that stuff.
Exactly. Which neurons fire, what circuits are active,
Yeah.
correlating brain activity with conscious states. That's often called the easy problem. I mean, it's not easy. It's easier.
Easier than the hard problem. So the hard problem isn't just mapping the brain activity.
You know,
It's why. Why does all that electrical and chemical activity actually feel like something from the inside? Why is there a subjective experience at all?
precisely. Why does seeing red feel like, well, red? Why does all that biological computation generate this inner world, this what it's like quality?
And that's where these sources start to get radical.
Yeah, you could say that. Some of the physicists and philosophers in this material, they suggest, well, maybe consciousness isn't just something that emerges, pops into existence only when matter gets really complex, like in a brain. In some way we just can't figure out.
Okay.
That-
So the alternative is that
Yeah.
it could be fundamental.
Exactly. A basic ingredient of reality. Maybe as fundamental as space or time or mass.
Oh.
Just part of the basic furniture of the universe, an inherent property, not just some lucky biological accident.
Okay, that is a huge leap from, brain chemistry. So if consciousness could be fundamental, how do the sources connect that to physics? Quantum mechanics comes up a lot.
Mhm.
This is where we bump into things like quantum entanglement, right?
Yeah, spooky action at a distance. Einstein's famous phrase for it. So quantum entanglement. It's this phenomenon where two particles become linked so deeply that they essentially share the same fate instantly, no matter how far apart they are.
Right, you measure one and you instantly know something about the other one, even if it's light years away.
Exactly. And the sources, well, they start asking some pretty intriguing, though definitely speculative questions based on this. Like, could our mental processes, could thoughts show entanglement-like correlations?
Wait, you mean like thoughts being linked? Or even different minds being connected in ways that aren't about sending signals through space, classically?
That's the kind of idea explored in some of the areas these sources touch on. Things like parapsychology research, studies looking at mind-matter interaction, even quantum cognition. Now, it's important to say these are highly controversial fields in mainstream science. But they are investigating correlations that, according to proponents, seem to defy standard classical explanations.
And it's not just abstract particles either. The sources mention this emerging field, quantum biology, suggesting quantum effects might be happening inside living things, too.
Right. That's a really interesting angle. The sources give examples like the amazing efficiency of photosynthesis, how plants capture light energy. Apparently, quantum effects might explain it.
Yeah.
Or how some birds navigate using Earth's magnetic field, potentially a quantum compass. Maybe even aspects of our sense of smell.
So quantum mechanics isn't just for subatomic particles. It might be working inside us.
Well, researchers like Hameroff and Penrose, who are mentioned in the material, they've speculated about this. They look at tiny structures inside neurons, microtubules, and wonder if they use quantum effects, like coherence or entanglement, for information processing.
Does that mean our brain is a quantum computer creating consciousness?
Not necessarily that directly. The idea explored isn't so much that these systems are consciousness, but that biology might be using quantum tricks.
Yeah.
And maybe those quantum processes could somehow be relevant to how consciousness arises or interacts. It's a potential bridge.
Okay. So quantum weirdness in the universe, maybe quantum weirdness in biology. It offers some, let's say, hints or possibilities. This brings us to another idea that seems to be gaining traction, philosophically at least. panpsychism.
Mhm.
The sources define this as the view that consciousness, or maybe some basic form of it, is fundamental to all matter. Like everything has it.
Yeah, that's the core idea. It flips the usual approach on its head.
Hmm.
Instead of asking, how does consciousness suddenly appear from non-conscious stuff like atoms? Panpsychism says, well, what if consciousness and matter were never separate? What if they're co-primordial, always together, fundamental aspects of reality?
So not matter creating consciousness, but two sides of the same coin, right, from the Big Bang.
Exactly. That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. And the sources use this helpful analogy. Imagine every fundamental particle, maybe an electron or a quark, has a tiny, maybe an infinitesimal flicker of awareness, a proto-consciousness.
Okay.
Then complex systems like our brains, they don't magically create consciousness from dead matter. They just integrate or amplify this consciousness that's already widespread, maybe in a very simple form.
Amplify it into the rich, unified experience we have, like
Yeah.
focusing scattered light into a beam.
Something like that, yeah. Building complexity from simpler conscious components. That's the sort of thinking explored by philosophers like Philip Goff, who's cited. The big shift is asking, what if the universe isn't just this giant, unfeeling machine? What if it fundamentally has some quality of mind or awareness built in?
That is, yeah, a huge conceptual leap. And it seems to connect to that really counterintuitive part of quantum mechanics, the observer effect,
Ah, yes, the role of observation.
where just looking at something,
Yeah.
measuring it, seems to change it.
It certainly appears that way at the quantum level. A quantum system can exist in multiple possible states simultaneously. That's superposition until it's measured or observed. Then it seems to collapse into just one definite state.
So if consciousness is somehow involved in observing,
Well, that leads to the really wild questions raised in the sources.
Mm.
Are we, through our conscious observation, actually participating in making the universe definite, selecting one possibility out of many?
are we co-constructing reality as observers entangled in this quantum system?
That's the mind-bending suggestion, that our consciousness isn't just a passive audience member watching the cosmic movie.
But somehow involved in the script writing? Or directing?
Maybe. Or at least interacting with the projection booth. It suggests consciousness might not be just locked inside our skulls. It could be more fundamental, maybe like a field, like gravity or electromagnetism. And maybe our brains, our biological structures, are like antennae that tune into or interact with this field.
Are there actual theories trying to model this? Or is it pure speculation?
There are theoretical frameworks emerging. The sources mention a few, like Integrated Information Theory, IIT. It tries to quantify consciousness based on how much information a system can integrate. It's not exactly a field theory, but it treats consciousness as potentially an intrinsic property of certain complex integrated systems. Then there are more speculative ideas, proposing consciousness is a fundamental field. And some thinkers, like Bernardo Kastrup, mentioned in the sources, take it even further. They argue that maybe consciousness is the only fundamental reality, and the physical world is just how consciousness appears to itself, directly linking consciousness to that quantum wave function collapse.
Okay, right. My head is definitely spinning now. If we entertain these ideas, even just as possibilities, what are the implications? Like, the so what for us, for the cosmos?
Those implications are massive, profound. They touch on some of our deepest questions about ourselves, like take free will. If our consciousness is part of some larger, perhaps universal consciousness or tied into quantum randomness, what does that mean for our individual choice, our agency?
Good question. And what about AI, artificial intelligence?
Right. If consciousness isn't exclusive to biology, could a sufficiently complex AI, could it potentially tap into this field? Could it entangle? Could it become genuinely conscious in the way these theories suggest?
It opens up a whole other can of worms.
It does. And maybe one of the most breathtaking ideas explored is, could the universe itself be learning? Could it be evolving over cosmic time?
The universe learning. Evolving towards what?
Well, some sources propose it might be evolving towards greater self-awareness. Picture a kind of cosmic mind unfolding over billions of years.
Wow.
And this connects to that concept of participatory cosmology, which is often linked to the physicist John Wheeler.
Ah, and he had that incredibly provocative quote, something like, the universe doesn't exist until it is observed.
Exactly. Which, if you view it through this lens where the observer is a conscious participant, not just a passive recorder, it takes on a whole new depth. Our existence, our observation might not just be in the universe. It might be essential to the universe being the way it is.
Wow. Okay. We have really covered some extraordinary ground here. We started with the hard problem, why we feel anything. And then we looked at quantum entanglement, possible quantum effects in biology.
Hmm. Then panpsychism, the idea of consciousness being everywhere, fundamentally.
Right. And ending with this idea that we, as observers, might be entangled with the universe, maybe even co-creating reality.
It's quite a journey laid out in this source material, and it definitely forces you to confront those big questions.
Yeah, like, are we just these isolated little sparks of awareness inside our heads in this vast, silent universe?
Or are we more like nodes, interconnected points in a vast cosmic network, cosmic mind?
Is consciousness maybe the universe's operating system, interacting with the hardware of matter and energy?
And, the ultimate question raised implicitly, if the universe is thinking or becoming aware, what is it thinking about?
So, based on all this, here's maybe a final thought to leave you, our listener, with. What if your own experience right now, your thoughts, your feelings, what if they aren't just yours, confined to your brain? What if you are somehow intrinsically part of the universe's own unfolding thought process? Just consider. What might that mean for how you see yourself and, well, everything?
It's a perspective shift, that's for sure.
That was a truly deep dive. We've explored some profound, definitely boundary-pushing ideas today.
Yeah, weaving together philosophy, quantum mechanics, cosmology, all around this central mystery of consciousness.
And it's clear these are not settled questions. Highly speculative, definitely still debated.
But they challenge our basic assumptions about who we are and what reality is made of.
Seems like we're really just scratching the surface here at this fascinating intersection.